come in and through the network, but there's no systematic approach to building a successful sales organization. And so until they understand what that approach looks like, it's really hard to duplicate it. And many times you'll need an individual contributor to start the process that already has a playbook, that knows how to build out the metrics and the strategy to find success. And then once that is accomplished, then it can be scaled. Then you can hire.
Welcome everyone to today's Scaling with People podcast. I'm Guinevere Kerr, your host, and I'm excited to have Dan Fantasia here with me. We're going to be talking about sales and when to recruit and when to have a sales team come into your business. Dan, nice to meet you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like you said, my name is Dan Fantasia. I'm the CEO of Treeline Incorporated. We are a sales exclusive search firm. We are known for building best-in-class sales organizations and have been doing this since 2001, actually March of 2001. And so over the past 22 years, we've built some tremendous network. I'd say a community of sales professionals. And it's given us the ability to help companies find hard-to-find talent because they just don't have access to them. But being in business for so long, having such a strong brand, we have been able to create this really cool network and been able to reach out to top talented sales professionals pretty much for every industry and every vertical.
And I think, for those that are not familiar enough with how recruiting agencies work, I think having a specialty firm work on your sales roles is so crucial to get the right person with the right skill set that can do what you need to do. They understand the sales cycles, they understand commissions, they understand quotas. And I think that's probably where you guys really are able to take off and be a better partner than other firms that are doing all types of roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can usually, when we sit down and talk to a company, we need to consult with them at the beginning to understand their business and their sales model and what's happening. And then we can also foresee some of the challenges or pitfalls that we may face in their search. And it could be a variety of different things: compensation, it could be quota, it could be location. There's a variety. It could be vertical. It could be the audience you're selling to. Anyway, there's a variety of different things that we will understand about each one of these sales roles and what challenges and concerns we think the candidates will have as we reach out to them. And so once we figure out all of those challenges and concerns and we work on it together, we all share the same consistent messaging as we go to market. And it's much easier to manage the pipeline of candidates in order to lock down a really talented sales professional.
That's great. So tell me, a founder, CEO listening who, maybe at the beginning stages is doing all the sales work right now. There's a point in time where things are becoming successful and they cannot manage to continue to do that to scale their company. What does that look like for a founder in regards to when should they be thinking about, I should start thinking about bringing my first sales employee on?
Yeah, once they are seeing some traction and they find themselves so caught up working in the business with no time to work on the business, it is time to start looking for some support. And considering sales is so critical for revenue generation, as soon as a founder finds themselves trapped and overwhelmed, it's time to really start looking at, some help on the sales front.
Yeah, or even maybe even earlier, right?
Yeah. Well, what happens is sometimes it can be a confusing time because usually the founder of a smaller company is the top salesperson. They're the ones that get it done. And so the first question is, do I need to hire a VP of sales? Do I need to hire an individual contributor? I know I need help, but where do I start? And then the second thing that many founders are trying to figure out is how to do it effectively, because they may have tried to hire a salesperson on their own, but that salesperson failed. And in many cases, it's because of just expectations. Many times they think if they find a salesperson that knows their industry, they're going to sit that person down and they're going to immediately be successful. But unfortunately, founders, they sell differently than their first salesperson will. And so until you understand what those differences are and what those challenges are, it's really hard to lock down the right fit, because you're likely going to set someone up for failure.
Yeah, I mean, even just the thinking about the title of a CEO founder coming to you to sell something versus a salesperson at the same company. What's the likelihood of me opening a founder CEO email over a salesperson's email, right? So you automatically have a little disadvantage when you lose that title when you start to sell. So you do need to give your salespeople a little breathing room from that expectation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, for many founders, they've been selling as deals come in and through the network, but there's no systematic approach to building a successful sales organization. And so until they understand what that approach looks like, it's really hard to duplicate it. And many times you'll need an individual contributor to start the process that already has a playbook, that knows how to build out the metrics and the strategy to find success. And then once that is accomplished, then it can be scaled. Then you can hire another person that follows that exact same playbook and continue to scale and grow the organization.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you go about finding the right fit for an organization.
Yeah. Well, the first thing we want to do is understand, who the company is and why someone would want to work there. We want to understand the messaging, because you have to understand our job for the past 22 years is to really go out and find A players, top producers that meet your exact needs so that you can help grow your business. And so in order to do that, we really need to understand what the messaging is and how to get people excited, because when we're calling on sales representatives, we know they're working. And if they're a top representative in the current company, we need to figure out how to get them excited to consider new opportunities. Because if we can't get them excited and there's no great story, then how do you get a salesperson excited, right? They're happy. They might be 150% of their quota. And so we want to pick off and talk to that individual for your organization. So we need to, number one, figure out, how to get them excited. And then we want to understand, what is the sales model? What is the average sales size? What's the sales cycle? What's the quota? All the information that is required to be successful in the search, because we know these sales reps are going to ask. If they're a good salesperson, they're going to ask all of these questions. And if we can't answer them, then we can't help. We can't get them excited. Additionally, we want to understand your selling, basically your sales model. And the reason we want to understand is because what we're trying to do is find sales representatives that align to your selling model. So we want to make sure that their sales characteristics align with your sales characteristics. We want to understand the audience that you're selling to and find candidates that sell to the same audience. And so with this being said, we ultimately understand now what the right fit is for your organization. Then we go to market. We look at competitors. We look at companies that are selling into your space. We look at individuals that are selling to your audience and the core customer. We recruit heavily. We find the individuals. We get them excited. We fully interview and qualify them. We then, of course, if interested and available, we then submit them to your organization so that you can see what these candidates look like. And we do it through our own technology, as you know, Guinevere, showing them a three-dimensional resume that is fully transparent, so you can understand what the market looks like, who the candidates are in the market, what they cost, and which ones are best for your organization.
So what pitfalls have you seen CEOs and founders fall into as they start to think about what their sales team structure should look like and actually go out and create that?
Well, a lot of the pitfalls are, well, the first one is for a CEO to say, I want to go hire somebody. I think I'll just hire someone from my competitor. And when they come in, they're going to hit the ground running, and they're going to be a superstar. That is typically always inaccurate, especially when it comes to sales. I mean, yes, we can go and we can find an individual from your competition, but you should also expect that there may be some strings attached, including non-competes. Definitely a compensation string will be attached, meaning that if they're coming from your competition, they're going to be looking for larger base salary, and they're going to want you to explain to them why you should make it worth their while. And so for smaller startups, sometimes they don't have the budget, and as a result, it's not a great strategy. And more importantly, when that person joins the organization, they may fail. They may fail because they're used to being supported with a SDR or BDR team, or an inbound team, or marketing, or or maybe they were given a handful of large accounts, and that makes them a top producer in their current organization. But when they go to a smaller startup organization, they need to realize they need to roll up their sleeves. They need to do the outbound on their own. They need to bring in net new business, from cold call to close, and sometimes that is not understood. And so the CEO hires a person like this. They pay a tremendous amount of money to find out that this person just can't hunt for net new business and is not accustomed to working in a smaller environment. And as a result, they can't succeed. And over time, and it doesn't take a lot of time, over time, they realize they hired the wrong person, and now they need to exit them and move them, out of the organization.
A very costly lesson learned for sure.
Yeah, totally.
And now you're also, not only have you spent a lot of money, you've also wasted a few months at best in regards to from the start of your search to now realizing you got to start all over again, how much time that's lost, therefore how much potential revenue was missed on getting that person ramped up and actually getting revenue through the door.
Yeah,
that's a tough one for sure. I've seen that happen, and I've seen that happen actually in other higher level roles as founders start to build out their executive team, which is also a costly mishire if you don't do it right.
Yeah. And it all depends on the company and the organization, what their needs are. I mean, many times we go straight to the competition, and that's exactly what we'll bring you. And other times we don't. It really depends on our time with you and understanding the business, what you're trying to accomplish, so that we can talk about some of the challenges and issues that we foresee in the search. And also, as we go to market, sometimes the information that you've given us is great, but we're learning, we're gathering, additional or new data from the market as we're reaching out to salespeople, and they're saying they know the company and they're not interested, or the comp structure doesn't work, or they're familiar with the industry and don't see how they can hit their numbers based on the average deal size, sales cycle, and quota. And there's so much to learn. And so once we start to learn that information, we help the clients, we share that information with the clients and help them figure out what is realistic, who is going to be successful in their organization, and then how we're going to get this search completed. I mean, we spend a lot of time with every one of our clients. We have a 97% success rate in our placement. So it's unusual for someone not to work out. And so it just takes a lot of time working together with the client to find the right fit.
Yeah, that makes sense. And helping them, I'm sure there's a lot of coaching involved during those conversations and helping them set proper expectations. So when you're in that moment, like, what's been some lessons learned that you've been learning about in regards to maybe some tips or tricks that you could share with founders and CEOs today?
Yeah. So if you try to recruit your competition, but you find out that it's just too expensive and too complicated with non-competes and things of that nature, one tip I would recommend is let's look at what your competition, where are they hiring from, right? Who do they recruit? So let's go through your competition, look at all their sales reps, and let's look at the companies they work for before they're working at your competition. I mean, maybe the competition's too big. Maybe the comp structure is too aggressive. Maybe you just can't compete at that level. So does it make sense to try to attract that really high level individual, or does it make more sense to maybe look at how your competition recruits and then find individuals from those companies that don't carry the same cost and try to recruit them? Or maybe we look at people that used to work at the competition or that are earlier in their career, so they're not as expensive, but they could consider, so there are a lot of different tricks and tips that we would talk to our client about, and then we would be trying and working through. And then with our outreach, with our network, we would be sharing feedback back to the company, letting them know what's working and what's not working.
So let's fast forward in the life cycle of a business, and pre-seed, probably get a salesperson in. Now we're Series A, Series B, maybe even going into Series C. At some point in the life cycle, the people who started the company may not necessarily be the right people to go from, it took the company from 0 to 20 million, maybe from 20 to 50, but they might not be the right people to take it to 50 to 100 million and plus and beyond. What have you seen when you're working with your customers in regards to level setting or upgrading their sales teams, and what have you seen in the market in regards to the timing of that?
Usually, yeah, there's a lot with that question.
There is.
So usually, if they're at the next stage, usually if they're trying to get from 20 million to 100 million, first and foremost, they usually need the right sales leader. Because up until this point, maybe they've had a few reps. Number one, they went from the CEO selling to building a scalable model. So now they have a few sales representatives that are finding great success, and maybe they have some BDRs in marketing, and they have an engine. They have a systematic approach to bringing in sales. They're doing very well. So now the question is, how do they get to the next level? And so a lot of times that requires a VP or a CRO to help with the strategy. And it also typically, we really start typically talking about how to transition a mid-market or SMB mid-market small deal size to an enterprise sales size. So we're trying to move upstream, trying to get the deal sizes bigger. And usually that needs more of an enterprise approach and enterprise leadership to help you get from, like I said, 20 to 100. And, with many of our clients that are looking to hire VPs, we're looking to bring them someone that has done this in the past, that understands the model and knows how to get, again, has their own playbook, how to take a company from 20 million to 100 million.
Yeah. And that's definitely what I see. I think one of the things that I bring to the table and help coach CEOs and founders is around that Series B, C mark is where you got to really think about what their needs are to go to the next level, and what skill sets are required to meet that. And it then is the current individuals and staff and structure from executive all the way down to an IC, is that the right structure and skill set that's going to get you from Series B to D in IPO land, right? And recognizing, I always say Series C is like, as a human being, it's like your time you've graduated high school and you're going to college, but not everyone goes to college, and that is completely fine, right? We need the plumbers and the electricians and the policemen and so forth to, right? Not if everyone went to college, our community would crash, right? So same thing with your business. Like, some people are going to be able to stay on with you and some are not, and that's okay. And you need to go out and you need to find the people who are going to help you grow that next phase in life. And I always say, there's a point in time where you're going to outgrow me, and we're going to help you move to that person that has the experience to hold on and help grow from 1,000 employee to 100,000, right? To 100 million to billions, right? So I think that's really important for CEOs and founders to understand. There is a shift and a mind shift on that in regards to thinking about the skills you have in the business.
Yeah, and there is some complexity there. Change, basically, change will happen.
Yeah,
it has to. If it doesn't, you just can't get to that next level. And usually, someone on your executive team that's done it before, from the sales side, is super helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Someone as you get to that point who maybe have built their career, learned in a bigger organization, and has some models and maps to use, but then has kind of come back into that startup small size structure, knows how to scale that to put in your roadmap and your game plan, so that you can actually be able to produce and scale. Well, this has been fun, Dan. I really appreciate having this conversation with you. As we wrap up, I'd love to learn any other tips or tricks that you'd love to share with our founders and CEOs that are listening today.
Yeah, I think for founders looking, if you're frustrated with your sales team or with sales recruiting, you're not alone. You really aren't. And many times, one of the challenges is that companies tend to try to do it on their own. And unfortunately, we've been doing this for 22 years. It is unlikely that your network or your internal team has the network, a big enough network to find the right talent. And so sometimes as you're recruiting, you're not finding great talent. So you end up hiring the best of the worst. And in many instances, for example, you can use our contingency services where there's no charge unless we produce and you hire someone. But many companies, founders and smaller companies, would consider the contingency service because they can see what the talent pool looks like from a professional organization like ours and compare it to what they're finding on their own. And many times they realize, wow, the skill set of the individuals we produce is that much higher. And also we save so much time. I mean, it takes so much time to find and qualify these individuals that in order to do it right, you really need a large team to be able to find them, put them in front of you, introduce them to you, and then help you through the process to hire the right individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. And of all the recruiting, all the roles that you recruit for in a business, a sales go-to-market role is going to have the ROI. And again, it's about that time. If you can shave off, if you can get someone, the right person in play 30 to 60 days faster, that's 30 to 60 days sooner, you're going to see revenue coming through the door. Yeah. Well, thanks, Dan. It's been great having you on the call, and thanks everyone for listening. I hope everyone has a great day.